What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Because of Sales podcast episode. In this episode, we've got an awesome guest, someone who I've gotten to know over the past few years, worked alongside him on a few projects, and decided to bring this episode to you guys and have Jake on as a guest because he is a savage. One of my favorite things about Jake is he has a lot more perspective than the average person when it comes to different types of sales. He's been in the corporate space at a high level, selling to Fortune 500 companies. He's also been the high ticket run and gun 1099 contractor. Aside from that, Jake is just a cool dude. A lot of great thoughts and ideas every time I speak to this guy. And so I'm stoked to bring you guys this episode. Before we get into this, please, you guys go down below and subscribe. Again, I'm going to ask you every time. We have a free newsletter. It's for salespeople like you. Our goal is not to just show you some recycled sales training, but it's to keep you up to date with everything that's happening in the world of sales. Tips, tools, tricks, social posts, memes, AI stuff, just stuff that's going to help you stay ahead and help you create leverage in your sales job. Our goal here is to help you get everything out of your sales job and do it as easy as possible and make it sustainable. So if you're interested in that, it's free. Every week, we send you a 5-minute email. Stay up to date. If you hate it, unsubscribe. But now let's get into the podcast. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Because of Sales podcast. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is episode 35. And if I am mistaken, then we're going to cut that out. But we've got a good guest on, hopefully someone that you guys enjoy listening to. This is Jake Pastick. Jake, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Where do we start, man? Jake is a sales professional, man. Let's start there. So you guys are listening to the right podcast. He's a sales professional, worked in a bunch of different industries, bunch of different roles, understands the nuance in just about every component of this sales thing, kind of a Swiss Army knife, if you will. Have you ever done like SDR, BDR, traditional, that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. Early stage venture back. That was like my first couple roles, was like very, very early stage. Maybe first to number 1 hire to number 5 hire on the biz dev team. Yeah.
So you've done the dirty work. You've done account executive. You've done W-2, 1099. You've done a lot of things results wise that a lot of people listening to this would like to do in terms of earnings. And we can definitely talk about this, but I know you're a huge proponent of return on time, right? It's not necessarily that we want to make $50,000 a month. Not saying we don't want that, but how much can I get for the time that I'm putting in? So I think that's something cool that we can talk about. But yeah, guys, I mean, Jake's a really good connection for a reason that we will not share. I hope you guys enjoy this episode because you might be seeing him in the future a little bit. But yeah, I mean, let's get into it, man. I guess, can you fill us in? I know there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts in your life right now. These are good things, but can you fill us in on what you're up to right now? And then we'll kind of build the story a little bit on how we got there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is probably year 3, definitely past month 24 of being in high ticket proper, maybe even year 4. I got to do the math there. But most of all, just I'm in that level up stage of looking back on my career, on what I want to do, what lights me up, leadership, autonomy. If there's a role where I can actually start to travel a little bit, I do miss that from my playing days, and I miss having in-person connections and putting this 6'8" body and frame in front of people is, I think, an edge of mine. Also in a season of life where I want to start to build a family. I'm married now, and it's time to kind of level up. I think a lot of other high-ticket guys that get in here and start to have some success get to that point, and I'm definitely in that phase.
Yeah. I think based on how the camera angle is, I might look like the taller one in this scenario, but I promise you guys, if we had a second angle at the legs under the desk, you would see it to tell a different story. I never thought about that, man. You probably crush in-person sales being 6'8".
It does. It's automatic frame, auto frame right away.
Well, dude, there's so many things we could talk about. And, you know, most of our audience are going to be salespeople. I think on the newsletter, we're 50% closers, account executives. Next demographic, maybe like 30% or so sales managers. We've got some SDRs, BDRs. So there's a lot of different ways we can run with this. I do want to document your story a little bit, and then maybe we'll get into some of the strategic stuff, spitting some game or putting people onto something they might not know about or could help them out. But We mentioned you're 6'8". I know you played some college ball. What'd you go to college for? And tell us about that.
I went to college to put the ball in the bucket, basically. Small liberal arts college, Davidson, same school where Steph played. I went there from 2012 through 2016. So when I started school, Steph was just Steph in the NBA. And then when I finished school, Steph was unanimous MVP, traveling with a posse of 30 people coming back to campus. And I definitely learned rigor and work ethic there. I did not have that coming in. And honestly, like, you know me pretty well. I don't necessarily have bottomless work ethic. I need to find something that lights me up to really work hard on it. And then I am able to focus on that. And it's a funny story. My second week of school, there was an article that came out in USA Today where it was ranked all the top 10 most rigorous school in America. And Davidson was number 2. They did not tell me that on my recruiting visit. So I was in for a wild 4 years. I was 0.01 points in my GPA away from not being eligible to play because the school was so hard and I was failing. And so I actually had to go on like a team mandated study hall, 2.5 hours every single day, monitored by a coach in the team room where everyone was coming in and out. Like everyone knows that Jake's struggling and he's there. And I think probably that's where I got hooked on like the public accountability. And that's why sales is nice, because when you're not performing, that's what happened. So learned a ton. Also learned how to be a leader and what it takes to win, for sure.
Didn't you go through a handful of injuries in college? Is that why we ended up in sales?
Yes, I got 5 concussions in college. And luckily in basketball, there's never, ever a point where it's, hey, you're clearly seeing sideways, like dust it off and go out there. Nothing against football, but in football, that's pretty commonplace. If like, hey, you're good to go. In basketball, it's very apparent. You need to go take care of that. So I never compounded them, but this is, again, season of life where I'm doing a lot of reflecting. I think it was that whole process of recovering from injuries and like learning how to be self-taught and self-learn things that is probably helping me in my career now. I think the first time I learned that you can actually learn stuff on YouTube for free that's better than a structured learning environment was like Khan Academy. And that was probably my gateway drug into just learning stuff on your own.
Did you go straight to sales right out of school?
Yeah. Didn't know it, but yeah, it was kind of like I was interviewing around and there was this role in this small early stage startup where my job was basically to go and sign up bankers and investors in Charlotte to contribute their time and capital to our startup accelerator. Closing a deal would mean like that this person I met when I'm 22 years old, 21 years old, would dedicate a lot of time to our program. And I was having 5 to 6, 7, 8 coffee chats a day in front of these bankers with a ton of authority and well-known people, and it kind of developed the executive presence, as they say.
And then you just went down the rabbit hole.
From there, yeah. I probably didn't know I was really doing sales until my second or third role. It was mostly like business development, and I wasn't in environments where sales was sexy. It was just like, you got to talk to people and get them to do something for you that they wouldn't necessarily do on their own. And then I realized when I had to kind of put my resume on paper, okay, wait, this is kind of sales. And then I think like everyone, you go through that conversation of, do I like sales? Like, do I want to be in sales? And then it was like, whatever. I might as well stay.
Yeah. You're like, I don't really care to be in sales, but how much money can I make?
Yeah. It's like in our world, like all hoopers want to be rappers and all rappers want to be hoopers. I think all salespeople want to be marketers and all marketers want to be salespeople. That was me. I was like, no, I love marketing and I love branding. And it's like, yeah, it's tough to get paid that way though.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then you mentioned you went into some venture-backed stuff. The role you were just talking about, was that, you said during school? So like, did you go through like any kind of sales-related internships or anything?
No, it was just kind of doing work on the side. It was someone that was connected to the program that kind of needed some help before I was done graduating. So I kind of started in that last semester-ish. It's funny, with injuries, I had planned on staying with for a redshirt year because of a knee surgery. So then I got my last concussion in before second semester of my senior year. So my junior year with 3 semesters left turned into my senior year with 1. So kind of panic mode, and I needed to do something. And that's kind of where I found that role. And the venture-backed startup stuff came in year 2 or 3.
Nice. You mentioned earlier you started as SDR, BDR. I feel like some of this I already kind of know. Some of this I need a refresher on because you've done a lot of stuff, dude. Let me like give some context on how we're even here, and then we'll kind of start piecing this together more. So Jake and I have worked together on multiple things in agency services, in the other business that I run. We know a lot of the same people. We've been in this same like high ticket space for a while. And Jake also has a passion for online business and stacking online skills and making money come, appear out of a laptop and just living that kind of autonomous life. So him and I have kind of spent a lot of time together, worked on a lot of things together. So I'm trying to figure out like the best way to kind of piece this together and make sure that people know that you're not just a retired sales guy Hooper, but a little bit more than that, or a retired Hooper sales guy, should I say. But yeah, man, I mean, I know moving on from that, you like SDR, outbound style role, just like a lot of us kind of start in the trenches. For me, it was door to door. I'm sure it's door to door for a lot of people who listen to this. Then you eventually move up. I know something that we definitely have talked about a lot is the fact that you've worked with some pretty large companies and in a sales capacity. Aside from your outbound roles, was that like the first big boy job outside of school?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It was for like a marketing company, right?
Yeah, with marketing services, kind of a managed service agencies. So a lot of these large corporations have a mandate to spend anywhere between 250 and 2 million on a certain form of marketing per year. And so they go out, they shop agencies, there's RFPs, RFIs, and then basically my role was account manager, but it was kind of a hybrid closing role and then managing role, account service role. And so that allowed me to put up some big names and we would manage their influencer marketing spend for them. They would cut us a check. We'd go find influencers. We'd manage the campaigns. We'd work with them on strategy. We'd be in their weekly meetings. So a lot of these people have what's called a brand manager. And that brand manager is vertical focused. So there's one person within Advil that needs to manage the influencers and the campaigns going through all their social channels. Now they call it UGC, like UGC creators. It would be first party content. And that was like big boy sales job.
I feel like this style of advertising is so much bigger now than back then. Like, dude, I feel like all these companies were running like super corporate campaigns. And yeah, some of them were doing like UGC, but now it's like, dude, they're leading with this UGC stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like propaganda.
Totally. It works basically any way you want to spin it. Like it works when you hire a creator to come create content for you. It works when you pay a creator to do videos that they make up on their own. Gifting works. Like it's all just the best form of marketing and everyone wins. Like creators are paid very well. We would cut like legit $50K per video checks for one video on their Instagram. $50K. We'd be like, yeah, it's a steal.
That's wild, dude. I need more followers so I can do that.
Totally.
That was like a little bit more of a not super fast paced, like super exciting type of sale, right? It was a little bit more save and face, Fortune 500 style companies. There comes a certain point where you switch from that style of sales to having the itch for the more fast paced adrenaline part of sales, I guess. What kind of drove you out of that role? I mean, first like serious opportunity aside from what the outbound stuff, but you're doing well, probably checking the boxes. Parents are probably proud of you.
Yeah.
What drove you out of that and into the next thing?
I think when you get into that type of role, you get a lot of visibility into what Fortune 500 high level sales really is. And it's not necessarily what we would consider like performance sales, or even within a tech company, like you have a quota and you're driven by being competitive and hitting a number and putting in the work every day. It's more like politician role than it is an actual performance role. And I got tired of being on status meetings and being careful about how I say things. Not that I'm inappropriate. I'm a professional for sure, but like that stuff kind of grinds you down and you realize, okay, this is it. Like this is what I'm going to do for 25 years and that's going to be it. And I luckily had developed this skill of redefining myself and not being super tied to an identity and doing what Gary Vee's advice was 10 years ago, which was like try a bunch of stuff in your 30s. And then when you hit 31, you can always start over. And I kind of bought into that and realized I wanted a lot more. I wanted to be back in a kind of a startup type role, taking on leadership, hiring people, being a part of strategy, something more dynamic and exciting. And that's kind of what I went back into. That's where I landed in like technically private equity.
Interesting. My vision of the timeline is better in some places than others. So you went kind of into the private equity space. When did you start stacking these online skills like writing? I know you were messing around with that, actually had some clients. And like, when did that start to come about?
That was 2019, probably the 9 to 12 months leading up to COVID. And then COVID just accelerated this whole thing. Like that's when I discovered remote closing. That's when I discovered what it meant to be 100% commission sales rep. That's when I discovered what an online offer was. because I think every freelancer arrives at the moment going, okay, I can know how to make money online. I know how Stripe works. How are people kind of leveling up from here? What is an offer? What does that word even mean? And that was the drug. That was the drug for sure that I got hooked on.
Did you like the job that you had at the time? Were you affected by COVID or layoffs or anything like that?
Yeah. And I saw it coming down the road. It was like very quickly, it was going to be, hey, we're going to have to really digitize this whole entire process. I can't be going and meeting people in person. So for at least the next few months, remember at that time, we didn't know how long it was going to be. I had positioned myself in this role, and I actually went to my boss's desk and I said, here's how we should do it. What do you think? And he was like, no. And I was like, all right, well, I'm out. Like, it was like kind of an ultimatum. And I had been freelance copywriting and I had been doing these things and making money. I was making websites. I was, just kind of doing your thing and just narrowly focus on a number that you could need to bring in to cover your bills. And I did hit that moment where I was like, I'm making more money with online money than I am with this day job. If he doesn't like this vision and doesn't believe in what I have and want to do with this, that's kind of the moment. And that's where I got.
Was that scary for you to commit?
It was, in the way that I really had to confront the idea of not having a label that I could tell my mom what I do for work and be very much the only person in my friend group doing weird internet money things. So it was the loneliness of that I was more scared of. I had gone enough months in a row to know I'd be okay financially, but it was like, what do I tell people?
Yeah. What did you tell people? Like, I write stuff, or?
I said I was like in internet marketing, like digital marketing, I think was the term I used, which we know to be anything really. And eventually people stopped asking, which I think is probably a good thing and a bad thing. So
Yeah, that's funny. So you kind of have this natural writing ability, marketing brain, if you will. And also, I would say, pretty good at the sales stuff. What led you away from the writing side of things, the freelance side of things, and towards the, kind of the same school of thought in terms of like online business, but different sales side being remote closing? What drove you towards that?
I kept getting into the same cycle like a lot of other freelancers get into. Was I didn't really know how to manage a book or scale. So like I would sell my way into success and then I would churn and sell my way back into above board and then churn. And I kept realizing, okay, like maybe the skill isn't actually client management that I have. It's actually client acquisition. And I think that leads you down a rabbit hole of like, okay, well, where is the point of maximum leverage here? If that is my skill, and if I want to find a cornerstone to build a career off of, what does that look like? And I didn't make a decision at one point where like, okay, I'm going to stop writing and I'm going to stop doing copywriting and doing that and just sales. But then you kind of look back at the Stripe notifications and you're like, I'm making a lot of money just selling stuff. And it's a really good return on my time. And then you do the hourly math and it's like, it's so easy to prove you're good at sales and you're making good money per hour. If I was going to advise myself, I would just do only sales.
All right, guys, quick break for the sponsor of this week's podcast edition, the Serial Sales Community. If you're listening to this podcast and you're at all interested in some of the stuff that Jake and I are speaking about when it comes to the 1099 remote setting or closing stuff, then the Serial Sales Community is the place for you. You have this skill, but you're not in the best vehicle. You could be in a better vehicle. You could have more control over your time, your location, and things like that. Well, we help people do that. So if you can sell and all you need is an opportunity, the Serial Sales Community basically streamlines you going from where you're at right now today, which is, potentially a dissatisfied state, into something a little bit more flexible, pretty strong earning ceilings, and an opportunity that a lot of people have come to like. So if you're interested in being a salesperson for online businesses that sell expensive things like coaches, consultants, agencies, softwares, masterminds, boot camps, we can help you do it. We can help you make it easy. We can help you make it sustainable. Go down to the second link in the description, click it, watch the video, book with the team. Mention Because of Sales. We'll give you 5% off any membership you choose. Now, back to the pod. I think the freelance, or more specifically, the like agency to remote closing pipeline is huge because they're already kind of used to that performance-based, no base pay, whatever. They're like, I know how to sell this. I just don't like fulfillment very much, I mean, you can attest to it. It's such a great thing to be able to have in your back pocket. We've both gone and done and tried a lot of things since getting into this space. Some work, some haven't, some are in the process of working or not working. Like there's a lot of moving pieces, but we all can kind of fall back on the ability to close and to land these closing opportunities. And I mean, a lot of people say there's in the corporate space and W-2, there's job security, but I think the best job security is just being someone who can figure it out, or someone who can sell, but someone who can sell themselves into opportunities, not getting the job with the 50, 60K base pay, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the skill set eventually just becomes on how can you actually storytell about what you can do and then prove what you can do very quickly versus like I've played both games. I've played the here are the names of my resume game, and that's opened doors for me. I've also played the just let me kind of prove it to you game. And that game leads to better opportunities usually because you're just putting yourself in a position where you can prove what you do versus like, here's what I've done.
Yeah, that's one thing that I like about the way that you've done things. And for any of you guys that are listening, you know, Jake, we were just talking, Jake's worked in like these big name, worked with Fortune 500, super, you know, saving face, long sales cycle. Then he's also done the wild, wild west, high ticket closing, you know, income's up, then it goes down, then it goes up twice as much. And so I think, dude, some of the best people to have in your corner are just the ones that have as much perspective as possible, right? Like you've also done the freelance stuff. You've had the service that you sold and fulfilled on and managed clients, and you've done this in companies, you've done this for yourself. And so like, I think that's super valuable for people. It's hard to find people like that. Find people that are smart enough to make it into the, you know, on paper impressive situations, but then also like can kind of tolerate a certain amount of risk to just swing for the fences. Like those are fun people to be around. So
you do a good job of this. Like when you're around those people, you tend to attract those people too. And those people are really fun to work with. You know, like I'll name drop one, Diego's one of those people. You know, like people like that are really fun to work with. And we talk a lot about, I'm always plugging Naval Ravikant for you. And it's like one of the two big decisions in life that determine a lot of things is like who you marry or who you choose as your life partner and who you choose to work with. And who you choose to work with is way more important than what you work on. And I've just found that to be so true.
that's like who you spend most of your time with, right? Like the people you work with. And whenever you look at the chart or whatever, there's a chart out there. And it's like, you know, as you get to a certain point, you see it go up and down. Like your friends, you start seeing them less, your parents. Yeah, dude, it seems like that is very important, who you work with. And someone told me this one time, close connection of mine. Well, it was actually for me when I was starting this business. I was like, do you think this would work? Do you think this is a good idea? And he's like, I mean, I think the idea is good. I think the idea is possible, but I don't really bet on ideas. I bet on like entrepreneurs, or I bet on people. Because like if I were trying to be Elon Musk and invent whatever he's doing with SpaceX, you could genuinely be like, I don't know if that's going to work, right? But if we're talking about a podcast and newsletter and media company, it's like, I mean, we know it works, but like, are you going to make it work, right? So yeah, I mean, combining all that perspective into a vehicle like this, I mean, it's exciting, man. Sometimes for the worst, like that person that we're talking about, that person that is super smart, but then also has that brutally high risk tolerance, they could be difficult to work with too. Like they could be really difficult to manage. They could be super scatterbrained. Case by case, I guess.
Case by case. I like how you've taught me this too, is like how valuable perspective is. If we run back and we put both you and I's story on paper, like, you know, from the outside looking in, skater kid that got in construction from San Antonio, you know, indoor hooper with the softest hands in the West, you know, like that perspective, we're here on the same pod, we're doing things in the same arena. And it's like the people that do have that unique perspective tend to do really well in this world and tend to do really well in sales, honestly. Like whether or not it's W-2 or 1099, the more perspective that you have, the more you realize what a great opportunity any sort of good sales role is.
Dude, this is like one of my favorite concepts ever, because the whole concept of like 1 degree, right? Like you change your 1 degree and you go off 10 years and you're in a completely different spot. Like, dude, you can select the right degree more times than not by having more perspective. And every day we're selecting new degrees, we're selecting new paths, right? I was talking to some guy earlier about landing a remote sales job, and we were looking at one that was more software oriented, B2B, but it was heavily commission based. A lot of variables. And I load up on Google Images and I said, are you familiar with this game? And I don't know, hopefully you're familiar for the sake of the pod, but it was that like Plinko game. where you drop the ball in the top and there's all the pegs. And I'm like, dude, this job is reminding me right now of this game because I could tell you, I could talk about this side of the Plinko board and we might end up on this side. Like, it's really hard to, I don't know, be perfect, right? So, anyways, I want to get back on the timeline here. I want to move it back. So, we got into the remote closing game. This is actually how Jake and I met, some form or fashion, ended up in the space together. And you worked a lot of offers. You sold a lot of things. I mean, B2C, B2B, done some management, done some closing. You've done some, I don't know if we want to call it growth operating, a little buzzwordy there.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Just stacked skills, honestly. Like you had the sales ability, you knew how to write, you knew online marketing, a little risk tolerance, stacked the skills. What was it like for you when you first got into remote closing? How did those first few months or so go?
I would say the first 2 months were a little rough just because going from corporate is a much different skill set than running a one call close sales cycle. You have to learn the skills to really, they're scalable. It's not so much like writing good emails and being good on camera and in person and saying the right things and like not being a liability for a client versus like, I need to challenge this person to understand what kind of identity they have so I can impress on the pain that they've experienced getting here so that we can actually get them to a decision that's going to hopefully change their life. Like those are two different things. So the first few months were a little bit rocky. And I think a lot of people coming into this space dipped their toe. And this is the advice I would give people that we had welcoming in the community when I was taking those calls. So if you're seeing this now, like I would talk about this is like dip your toe doesn't work. And as soon I actually have this chart, I think I've showed you it is like, there's a moment in my earnings where I went all in and said, all right, I've got no choice. I'm just going to do this full time. And then the earnings just skyrocketed and that became my new base. As we talk about, like there is a way to engineer a baseline level of earnings with your skill set. This is like Wilson's law for anyone out there that's nerdy like me. It's like, if you just chase the skill set, the income will come. And it has for a couple of years now.
Yeah, dude. I think the biggest mistake that people make when they come into this space is they're still playing the game like it's W2 corporate style. It's like, dude, you need to play the contracted sales rep game. Like you need to be knowing people. You need to be hedging your bets and putting money aside and knowing how to play that right so that you can stomach the volatility. Cause you and I both know, like we know people and we've personally like made good money in this, and you can have really, really, really good months and then you can wake up and not have anything to sell the next day, right?
Yeah, I've never seen a world where there is such a valuable earning opportunity go to zero fast overnight. All these could go overnight. Like,
yeah. And that's why if you're making 10, 20, 30 a month and you just do that for 2-3 months, it's like, well, yeah, you can stomach like a week of looking for something new to contract into, right? So that's why I think it's super important you got to play this game the way that it wants to be played. And I've seen people, you've seen it too, man, where they create an awesome life. It's almost like business ownership is super sweet. It's hard in the beginning, but dude, it's like the next best thing to business ownership. I mean, being in sales in general, but then when 1099 contracted commission-based sales goes well, you get the tax advantages, but then also a little bit more freedom, autonomy. It's like sometimes better than business. You can clock out at the end of the day.
yeah, having done both, I've never really stayed up looking at the ceiling because I lost a deal or I didn't close a deal or they said no. I've done that many a time because I've turned a client and I've been like, I'm going to have to fire my contractors. Like it's the 28th and they're not going to pay on the 1st.
Yeah, that's tough. We could talk about that, I'm sure, for forever. Just like career strategy. I think you've also been in this game long enough. You said 3, almost maybe 4 years, to where you've experienced the highs, the lows, the stability, the instability. And, here we are today, December 2025. You're still kicking.
I made it. We made it.
Let's talk about, this might be cool. So dude, you're not a 21-year-old kid. When you play this game as an adult, where you have adult responsibilities and you want to, provide for yourself and your loved ones, you got to play it a little differently, right? And there was a point where you decided to jump back into like the corporate structure, and then you jumped out of the corporate structure. So what did you learn from that experience? Because it wasn't like, hey man, I'm completely done with this stuff, I'm going to hang it up and I'll see you guys never. It was like, well, I think right now I should try this. And then you ended up back. So like, what was
Yeah.
that experience like?
It was very valuable for sure. I'm talking about perspective. That was the first time jumping back into a corporate environment in a long time, 5, 6 years. And, season of life, like things just came inbound toward me. And it was like a perfect cocktail of, man, I need some base pay, but more than that, I like need a W-2 role for what I'm trying to solve for in my life. This like family health and relationships. There was a number of different things. And it was like, I just can't do this based on kind of what's happening to me. And yeah, did the whole thing, the job search, 7 interviews in 10 days, just insane. Got the job offer, got the money, got the base pay, got the 50-50 split commission. Spent 4 months in W-2. And I remember that very specifically, there was this one day where some senior leader was in the office from New York or something. And this is a well-known company, by the way. I won't dox, but like, this company. Everyone that's watching this knows this company. Some of you out there want to work for this company. That's your prerogative. And someone important was coming into the office, and I didn't know who, I didn't know why. And I had been there since like 6:30 a.m. Did my morning calls, you got your daily call limit, whatever. And it was around 5:30. So I basically put it in 11. And I walk out and I just exit the elevator on my way out to the car. And my manager texts me and goes, "Where'd you go?" I said, "Hey, I'm heading out. I'll see you tomorrow." Kind of thinking that I forgot something or they want to talk to me about something. I'm like, "I'm in the car. Like, you want to call me?" And they said, "You can't leave." "What do you mean?" "Mr. Important's in today. You can't leave until he's gone." I said, "Why not?" She goes, "Well, what if he saw you leave?" And I was like, "Well, did he see me come in 11 hours ago?" And at that moment, I was like, okay, this is not for me. This is not even my job as a salesperson. My job is to make the company money given the resources I'm given. And what the job actually was make sure that we're doing all the right things so that senior leadership feels good about making a hire. And I was like, had the long conversation and again, still had to solve for the stuff that I needed to solve for. And luckily, I'm connected to the right people in this industry and told them, you guys were, all the people that and I was talking about this were very transparent and they knew what I needed to solve for. And they said, well, we can solve for that. So yeah. What did I learn? W-2 is for some people. W-2 is not for others.
I remember you talking too about just like whole, companies getting crushed by quota, right? Like just tough times on that front too. And it's what led me to just like, I kind of, to some extent, experience this through you because I've never worked for like a huge corporate-y company. I've worked for like big ones, but it's always been a little different. But dude, like even just talking to people that come in through the community that I run, it's like, bro, there really is not as much security that you might think there is in some of these roles that you're chasing for years and years and years. Like the security is in you,
That's a really good point. The security is in you. And that was probably the big mistake I made was believing that the corporate environment would give me that security and at least like breathing room. And it's quite the opposite. And yeah, I think that the stat I told you, and this is pretty prevalent among tech sales, to be honest. I'm jaded for sure, but like when you actually run the numbers, a lot of AEs don't make it into year 2 with the role that they started, even if they're an SDR. And then you look at quota attainments, like quota attainment for listed opportunities is less than 25%. And that quota attainment includes recurring deals. So on a 3-year deal, year 2 still counts towards your quota. New deals coming in, it's like, oh, the numbers are much more bleak.
Yeah. And obviously there's going to be people who come and can argue the exact opposite side of this, right? So, I think it gave you more perspective, man. It gave you more light onto what you like, what's important to you. Maybe without that happening, you never solve for these like life circumstances in a way that you actually enjoy. Like, what if you were just still there,
Dude, I have no idea, but you're totally right. That perspective is so valuable. It gave me like renewed lens on how to view this industry. It's like, how can I solve for the things that I wanted to solve for with W-2? Big part of that is knowing the right people. Big part of that is building relationships. Big part of that is helping out people for free. A lot of the stuff that we know actually engineers security rather than just a number on paper of like, here's how much we're going to pay you to show up.
Yeah. And just to kind of like fast forward a little bit without sharing too much, like, you had something come across your desk recently that just completely solves for all these problems, maybe a time or two over. And there's a lot of things that if they wouldn't have happened the way that they did, we wouldn't be where we are. Right. And so in reverse, it makes perfect sense. But I think it's just about stepping one step at a time, showing up, meeting the right people, being a reliable dude. At the same time, man, like, you and I have worked together we've worked with other people together. You've worked in all these corporate companies. If you were just a bad dude, none of this would happen. Like if you didn't stay true to your word, you burnt people, wasted people's time, like none of this works.
Yeah, it matters. Like doing things the right way. That's one thing that surprised me is doing things the right way, even when it's really hard. It's taken longer for that to actually pay off. And it's only paid off when I actually release myself of the expectation of like, I'm going to do it the right way, knowing and hoping it will benefit me later. It's when I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did it the right way. I don't know what's going to happen when it actually comes back and benefits me in a big, major way.
Well, after you had the experience of the corporate hellscape, not to be dramatic, but after you went over there, realized, I don't want to be over here, you came back into the wild, wild west side of 1099 land and things have been going pretty well. We just hinted at something that could be cooking, but this leads me to what we kind of hinted at earlier, where I was like, one thing that I think is cool is you've done is really measured the return on time spent, right? And so currently you're in this pretty sick opportunity where remote closing niche, you take a handful, or I don't know how many calls today, but you've been taking a pretty manageable call schedule, making pretty good amount of cash while doing some other stuff on the side. So I like to show all sides of it, man, and talk about how it was rough when you first got into it. And then also talk about, there's a lot of people that want to make 5-figure months on a part-time schedule, and it's not everybody's result. It's not normal, but it's doable. You can meet the right people, right?
Meet the right people, time in the game. Like I think the one thing that has allowed me to solve for having the income that I need and want with pursuing the opportunities that make me excited 10 years from now is that I've just proven to not be a liability, proven my skill set, and then like increased my AOV. That's really the only thing that's changed. My skill set I continue to have and maintain, but like in this world, you just sell more expensive stuff and you get your return. You basically buy back your own time. And to your point, I'm making, I think I did a breakdown in the community that you run also of like, I did this many hours and made this much per hour. And it's like, that's great. And like, I'm really big on solving for that because I don't know what it is, whether it's natural or developed, of like a sense of how I spend my time and what that means to me. I cherish time quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few guys. I think you're definitely, and it's probably because you are going through these like life milestones. Maybe some of these people aren't there yet, but I think you're honestly one of the few guys that is so kind of organized with this stuff, man. It's like, I know I need to make this much for these things, and anything beyond that is a little fun money and it's for these things. And I remember you posted something, maybe it was like a month or two ago, and you're like, 6 days into the month, already hit this number, like the number that I need for this, and this. Now it's like, see what else we can do, right? So I don't know, for any of you guys listening, 6 days into the month, make everything you need and more to survive and build, and then make fun money for the rest of it is not a bad gig.
It's like building runway, right? It's like now 24, 25 days of the month. I can build runway for, we know, a down month, or when our ad accounts get suspended, or when our offer owner goes to jail. I don't know. These things happen in this world. I'm like, it basically engineering your own safety in this very uncertain world of.
Yeah, man. It's like sprints. Not always, but it can be sprints, right? Like, it's like a sports season, dude. Like you're in the off season, you're in the on season, like you don't just stop in the off season,
It's like sports in the other way too, where it's like you get hot. You can get hot for 4 months at a time. And I've seen people get hot for a year and then go absolutely shivering, freezing cold. And it happens. And it's nothing. You haven't changed anything. And all of a sudden your numbers have.
Yeah. Oh, that's frustrating. If you guys are listening to this and you haven't experienced that, then you're not yet in sales. You're on your rookie contract still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some moments like that for sure. I mean, it happens in business too, dude. You're like, I'm doing the same shit.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah. All right, man. So we're pretty caught up to like present day. I don't want to run this on too long. There's still a ton of things that we could talk about in terms of providing value for anyone who's listening. Anything come to mind that you want to dive into? Anything super top of mind for you?
No, I just been talking to a lot of people, like guys about to graduate in the Davidson basketball program, and a lot of people that are kind of in their early 20s. And for one reason or another, people have reached out to me and asked for some advice. And I'm like, I can only give advice that I followed myself. If anyone's out there just like thinking about whether or not they should do something, the answer is probably yes, because if you don't do it, how are you going to have the data and perspective to even know if it works. And you and I talked about this and working together. It's like, that's how you actually start to compress time and actually give yourself the data and perspective you need to make informed decisions. If you're stuck on the fence and trying to wait for ideal conditions, you're cooked already. Whatever the perceived risk of whatever you think that you should or want to do is, the risk is actually way lower. All these things are two-way decisions and two-way doors. You can go in, you can come back out. Just, you got to go for it. You have to go for it.
I've been doing this for a while now. Every day you look at the calendar and you have stuff on the calendar, but then you also have stuff you need to do that's not on the calendar. And I put it on a notebook here. It's a lot of stuff. That was a busy day. But I was randomly looking through my journal today back in September, just kind of seeing what I was up to. And I wrote this thing that I heard from Alex Hormozy, which is I think I was listening to his podcast. He said the most detrimental decision that you can make to your business is not deciding. And even if you make the wrong decision, correct it, and then make the right decision, you're still going to be ahead than if you never make the decision, as long as you don't stop. So super true. The sales stuff is super rewarding, super trying at times.
Not for everybody. It ain't for everybody.
Not for everybody, for sure. But at the same time, it's not for everybody, but I think anybody who genuinely wants it can get it, I don't know if you would also identify as this, but I'm self-proclaimed. When I got into this, I was the opposite of a salesperson. I never thought I would end up here. And what I did was I just reverse engineered the life that I wanted and the different paths to get there based on what I knew. And I was like, you know what, man, I can put aside this introvertedness because I identified this opportunity that's going to get me here without a master's degree and without a lot of student loans and whatever. So I think as long as you have a reason, man, a why, you can make it happen. I don't know. Were you like that at all?
In a way, I would say I'm more extroverted and get my energy from people. And I think that sales, that was my natural ability in sales. I grew up with older brothers, and I don't know why this actually is important, but I just always loved strategy. I had to figure out ways to win against them. They're 7 and 8 years older. I didn't win anything until I was 13. I think that naturally led me to strategy, and I have to outthink them. And that was my wedge into sales, was I loved the strategy of it. I loved framing and I loved positioning. That's what made me a decent marketer and a good communicator, was how can I position this idea in a way that's actually helpful and tangible and recognizable and communicate. One thing that pisses me off all the time is bad billboards. It's dude, that's how you want to communicate that idea? God, it drives me nuts. And that was probably my wedge into this game, how I found success. But I'm not the cold caller. I mean, I will, but I'm targeted. I'm not a volume guy. I'm not going to take 16 calls. I'm not going to work a 12-hour schedule. You got to find your way to do it. Everyone has their game.
You've already earned your stripes. You don't really need to do that.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point too, is the more you know your game and the more that you play and just stick to your own game, the easier your game gets.
Talk to me about this, man. I was recording some content with a homie of mine and he was interviewing me and he asked me, we were talking about the remote closing space, but he was talking about saturation and how I see it. But I'm curious on your end, and not just in the space that we're in, but just sales in general, with the whole idea of saturation. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there will always be room for people that stick with sales long enough. And maybe a better way to put that was, I just know how often people burn out and get out of the game. And I know what they do, and I know their habits, and I know they have their expectations of this space. And for as many new people coming in, there's always going to be people going out. The question people always ask themselves, if this is so great, why isn't everyone doing it? Well, if I told you the downsides and when it gets ugly, what that's you'll understand why. So there's never going to be saturation in sales. It's an ancient profession, and there's a lot of people that try it and a lot of people that give up on it.
Yeah. I was thinking through this today. If someone came to me and they had 2 pills, and one was you could be great at sales, the other pill was you could be great at being consistent, I would take the consistency pill, man, because I think so much of sales is you don't even necessarily have to be the best to do extraordinary things. You just need to stay in it longer. If you committed, again, and not to make this a Hormozy thing, but he's dude, if I knew that if I worked at this for 10 years, I'd be a millionaire, I'd take it 10 times out of 10, right? But if you knew that if you just worked at sales long enough, you would have XYZ outcome, then you would do it. It's just hard, dude. The days of no sales or lost sales and ups and downs. But I think if you just focus on what's controllable, showing up on time and practice, call reviews, all the boring stuff, like it would, at a certain point, it becomes unreasonable for you not to reach a certain level of success.
Totally agree. The way I experience that in my own life is I have done a good job of taking care of everything outside of this square in my personal life to make me successful in this world that we're talking about. And the evidence I have of that is I can't think of a time in high ticket specifically that I've ever been the number one seller on a team consistently, yet I've still found success because I've been consistent. I think that's true. I think if I can run back all the scoreboards and leaderboards of teams that have multiple people on them, I don't think I've ever been number one consistently, maybe a hot month here or there, but I've still found an incredible success in this world by being consistent.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, man, it's like, it's good to hit the record months and all that. But what these business owners are really looking for is peace of mind that this part of their business is fine and dandy so they can go focus on another part of their business. And you don't have to be number one and set records every month. There's that dude that record sets and then they burn out for 2 weeks and can't close the door. And then there's, maybe a guy who's 2, 3, 4, but just like every month, like clockwork. I know what I'm getting from this guy, right? I'm not going to say that's more valuable, but it's definitely a conversation, like
Value in both.
Yeah, there's value in both. I want to talk about Jake as a hobbyist really quick. So there's a lot of different salespeople, right? It's not to say I don't want to be a top performer or not to say I don't want to grind. I think we've all had our seasons of that. But I think you and I both value what we're able to get because of sales. I promise I didn't plan that. And, we both have hobbies outside of sales and business. I know you are quite into golf and we talked about running a little bit. We talked about a big man pace the other day.
Yeah, 12-minute miles, man. That's all you need.
Talk about that a little bit, man. Like how you've been able to kind of manage like these hobbies that you like and a fulfilling life through, just being consistent with this sales stuff.
It's what attracts, I think, a lot of people to this space is like the ability to control your own day and sell when you want to and spend your time how you want to. I think I make the joke all the time. It's maybe even a few like platform, like community bios is like, I'm in high ticket so I can golf every day. And there's some truth to that, but that's also like a philosophical viewpoint I have is like, if you're not going to treat your profession and your work as a means to actually live a fulfilling life, then you're just kind of stuck working and trying to find fulfillment with that, which is really difficult. And like, by all means, that's something to pursue. But I golf a lot, too much. In the summers, it's a problem, but it allows me to work out in the middle of the day. Like I'm a big fan of a barbell schedule, morning calls, evening calls, and take 3 hours and go hit a gym session. And it's funny, like as using remote sales and sales in general as a means to live a fulfilling life and spend my time how I want to has not only benefited me of like, I'm having fun. I have the data from my Whoop is like, as soon as I started doing this, all of my other metrics, the lagging measures that are important in life, my health, my weight, my happiness, my marriage, my relationships, like my time spent with family, everything has improved. All of those numbers are up because I can choose what to sell when I sell it and how I sell it.
Yeah. Because of sales, dude.
Because of sales. Golly, man, for real.
Well, let's see. Any like parting ideas or words for the listeners as we conclude the Jake introduction?
I'm kind of really on this kick right now of like, know your game. Just know your game. There's a million ways to do it. Stick with it. And also this too, I'm coaching 3rd through 5th grade basketball on Saturday mornings right now. And I think one thing that you learn from them that I'm trying to portray to everyone in my life is you have to understand and get to a point where you don't care what other people think. It would help a lot in this world too of like, who gives a shit about your LinkedIn profile? Like, don't care what people think. And if you can get to that spot, man, life is better. Don't care what people think.
How are you learning that through the coaching? Like what do you?
So it's co-ed. So it's both girls and boys. And these kids are the age right before they start to go through puberty and realize embarrassment. They don't care. They have no ego. They don't care what people think. There's this kid that shows up in a cowboy hat and a bomber jacket every day and he warms up. He's in 3rd grade. And I'm like, man, we all look at him. Us coaches, we're all married men in our 30s. It's like, if we all kept that energy all up until now, I think we'd be really proud of ourselves. And it's just don't just let go of what other people think, and you'll free yourself up to do a lot of cool things.
Yeah, dude. I think that's a freaking cheat code, man. If you can not care or just not care too much and be proactive in like pushing yourself out, posting content. I mean, with something such as this podcast, man, you know, like, or content in general, dude, some of the richest, I'm not going to say richest people in the world, but like the most well off people, especially at a young age, they're there because of content. And it could be a podcast, it could be TikToks, it could be newsletter, it could be a lot of things. But yeah, dude, I think the world, especially we get into this AI stuff, man, like the world is itching for unique people and consistency in that sense. You know, like we all listen to podcasts. If you guys listening, listen to podcasts. We're talking about My First Million, you know, recently. Dude, like just the same two guys every week, but people love it. I like it. I listen to it a lot. So
It's made a huge impact on me personally. Like Sam Parr is someone I really consider as like a permissionless mentor of mine. It's like, what would Sam do in this situation? Seriously.
it's funny, super small world. Let's tie this back to salespeople. I was listening to one they posted about a month ago, and Sam was like, I was like doing some funnel research on Hormozy because I think they were having him on or whatever. He opts in, and before you can confirm an appointment or whatever, confirm on the same page, he gets a call from an SDR. And I actually know the guy. His name's Xavier, lives here, well, lived here in Austin, now lives in Vegas working for them. And he was like, I don't believe that you're real. You called me too fast. It was like Friday at some nighttime hour almost. He's like, FaceTime me right now. And then he FaceTimed him. And then I hear that. I send it to my boy Xavier. I'm like, dude, send this to your sales manager so you can like get a raise or something like that. But super small world, dude.
It's FaceTime Sam Parr.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I'm real. I'm not a robot here.
Small world, dude. Because of sales. Look at that, man. I'm jealous of Xavier getting to meet Sam.
Yeah. But no, man, I mean, a lot of stuff we talked about today. Some sales stuff, some strategy stuff, some life stuff. Won't say anything too soon here, but hopefully you guys like the episode with Jake. If you don't, let me know if you guys hate this episode. But no, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Do you want to plug some socials?
Jake Lazy Rich on Twitter, just spelled out JakeLazyRich. TBD here pretty soon. I'll start talking about it more. But if you're in the fitness space, if you own your own fitness offer, reach out to me. We can help you out.
What about the YouTube channel, man? You post good stuff there.
Jake Lazy Rich on YouTube. Yeah, that's still kind of a work in progress. 2026 is big. I had planned on posting a lot of YouTube content here, but we are going to be posting regularly on YouTube. Jake Lazy Rich on Twitter or on YouTube as well.
New YouTube account?
Yes, I think
No,
so.
no, this is the one you've been using. You just rebranded it.
Yeah, I just changed my name.
Okay, cool. Yeah, these are the videos I'm talking about. Look up Jake Lazy Rich here. This one from a year ago. My business partners went to Tampa without me.
A reaction video.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about this more in the future, just like some of the stuff we've kind of gotten into together, but a lot of stories about this guy. But anyways, dude, these Replit videos are banging.
Yeah, I broke the algo a little bit.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, we'll wrap this up. You guys go connect with Jake down below. If you like this video, do the like and subscribe thing. And we're actually, you know what, dude? Let me live check it here. We're probably not there, but 498 subscribers on the Because of Sales YouTube channel.
Ooh, road to 1K.
I was hoping we could be there, but no.
It's free. It's free. Compensate us for our time. Just give it a like and a sub.
I'm going to make some fake stats right now. I think 30% of you guys watching this are subscribed. So that means the rest of you need to go subscribe.
Shame.
But no, got big things in the works. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, that was the podcast with Jake. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Towards the end, we got into a little bit of general sales banter, which I do hope you guys enjoyed that because we'll probably have more of that coming soon. If you guys like that episode, I'm going to put Jake's links down below. Go connect with Jake. I know he's posting content on multiple platforms, so go join him. And if you guys are interested in staying up to date with what is working right now in the world of sales, subscribe to our newsletter. First link in the description. We want to make sales easy for you. Doesn't matter what you sell or who you sell to. We're going to pull the best of the best from across the internet and send it to your inbox every Wednesday in a really compact format. Easy to read, easy to digest. If your manager catches you reading this, he probably won't be too upset. So again, First link in the description. Subscribe. It's free. We'll see you on Wednesday. And thank you guys for watching the podcast. Take care.